The History of Ben Willis, the Fisherman of Vengeance. An I Know What You Did Last Summer timeline. Our backstory begins in 1980. Fisherman Ben Willis works at the Tower Bay Resort in the Bahamas. He lives on the island with his wife, Sarah, and children, Susie and Will. Ben violently murders Sarah in the honeymoon suite. The date is from Sarah's tombstone. As a general note, newspaper articles and tombstones throughout the series form a very consistent timeline. Ben flees the island with the children, and the Willis family settles down in Southport, North Carolina. Thursday, July 4th, 1996, Susie Willis dies in a drunk driving accident caused by her fiancé, David Egan. The following year, on the 4th of July, recent high school graduate Helen Shivers wins the annual Croaker Queen pageant. She goes to Dawson's Beach to celebrate, drink, and tell urban legends with her boyfriend, Barry Cox, and their best friends, couple Julie James and Ray Bronson. Meanwhile, Ben kills David Egan by throwing him off a cliff near the site of Susie's death the previous year. Despite being drunk, Barry drives the four friends back into town while Ben leaves the scene of the crime. Barry runs over Ben, and the friends freak out while hiding it from Julie's friend Max, who happens to drive by. The four friends decide to take Ben to the docks to throw his body into the water, because they're the heroes of this film. But Ben wakes up and snatches Helen's crown before they beat him and push him into the water, like all American heroes do. They believe him to be dead. Barry retrieves the crown from the water, and they make a pact to never tell anyone about what happened. A few weeks later, David Egan's body is found and deemed an accidental drowning. Julie mistakes him for Ben, believing they were responsible for his death. Over the course of the following year, the four friends struggle with their guilt, and both couples break up. They all drift apart while Ben heals from his wounds, gaining a scar that runs across his forehead and cheek. He plans a sadistic revenge plot against them. On Wednesday, July 1st, 1998, Julie returns to Southport after her first year of college in Boston. Ben leaves an anonymous note for her stating, "I know what you did last summer." The next day, Julie reunites with Helen, who works at her family's store, and Barry, who drinks a lot. They consider Max could be behind it, so Barry threatens him. After they leave, they have a tense reunion with Ray. Ben dons his iconic black slicker and kills Max. That night, Ben stalks Barry and runs him over with his car, but doesn't kill him. The following day, after visiting Barry in the hospital, Julie and Helen research David Egan and then visit his sister for information. That night, Ben sneaks into Helen's house and cuts her hair, leaving a warning note, "Soon." July 4th, 1998, Julie finds Max's body covered in crabs in her car trunk, although he vanishes and the car is spotless when she calls the others for help. Julie returns to David's sister for more information and realizes their stalker also killed David. Ben murders Barry at the Croaker beauty pageant, then kills the police officer escorting Helen home. Helen flees to her family's store, where Ben kills her and her sister. Julie goes to Ray for help at the docks when Ben offers his help. Julie realizes Ben's the killer. They fight him on his boat, managing to sever his right hand and send him overboard, presumably to his death. Julie and Barry reconcile. Early the next year, while back at college, Julie has a nightmare about Ben attacking her. During this time, Ben recuperates from losing his hand and damaging his left eye, and he plots an even more elaborate revenge scheme with his son, Will. Note here that Will isn't present during the events of I Know What You Did Last Summer, but his inclusion in the sequel could possibly suggest that he was helping Ben off-screen. If you go with this theory, it could mitigate some of the skepticisms of the fishermen seemingly teleporting around and cleaning crime scenes in such short time. Part of the Willis's plan is for Will to attend Julie's college in Boston under the suspicious pseudonym Will Benson, as in Ben's son. and then befriend her. On Thursday, July 1st, 1999, Julie attends summer classes as an excuse to stay away from Southport for the summer. She has her first nightmare of Ben attacking her for the last few months and is comforted by Will. Ray arrives to bring her to Southport for the weekend, but she refuses, and he returns on his own. Julie goes out clubbing with her roommate, Carla Wilson, and Carla's boyfriend, Tyrell Martin. The next morning, Will fakes a radio contest to trick Julie and Carla into thinking that they've won 4 free tickets to an all-expenses-paid vacation to Tower Bay Resort in the Bahamas. Julie invites Ray, so after work he starts driving back up to Boston with his co-worker Dave. Ben lays a trap in the road and kills Dave. He attacks Ray, but Ray survives and is hospitalized. The next morning, Julie, Carla, Tyrell, and Will travel to Tower Bay and check into their rooms, while the other guests leave due to an oncoming storm, leaving a skeleton staff of 6. Meanwhile, Ray escapes from the hospital. Ben toys with Julie's mind some before he kills Derek the dockhand and Olga the maid. After midnight, Carla and Tyrell try to enjoy the resort, while Julie fails to convince anyone that Ben is back, save for Estes, the porter, who remembers the Willis family from 1980. He attempts to use voodoo to protect them. Note that it's unconfirmed if the ritual works or not, but is the first mention of anything supernatural in the series, which will be leaned into heavily in the next film. Ben kills Titus, the gardener, and Mr. Brooks, the manager, while Ray buys a gun and sets out to the island. That morning, Julie's friends realize they are in danger, and Estes confronts Will, who kills him. The last people on Tower Bay band together against Ben, but he surprises them and kills Tyrell, then hunts down the others and incapacitates Carla and kills Nancy, the bartender. Will drags Julie to the cemetery while the storm rages. Ben reveals himself. Here he's gaunter and sporting thicker stubble, with a milky eye and longer hair. Ray arrives, so it turns into a 2 versus 2. Ben accidentally kills Will when they get the upper hand, or hook. Julie manages to shoot Ben several times, clearly killing him, and they bury him in the open grave that he'd dug for Julie. The Coast Guard arrives in the morning and brings Julie, Ray, and Carla home. That October, Julie and Ray have bought a house and are engaged. The screenplay sets this scene 4 months later, which fits with what we see on screen. Ben sneaks in the house and attacks Julie, but it's ambiguous whether or not this is a dream. Over the following few years, the legend of the Fisherman spreads across the country. It's said that he's returned from the grave as a vengeful spirit who kills teenagers around the 4th of July. With the ambiguity of Julie and Ray's deaths and the possible killings mentioned in the intervening years, he's getting a plus for his kill count. During the 4th of July of 2005, in Broken Ridge, Colorado, high school graduates Amber Williams, her boyfriend Colby Patterson, and their friends Zoe, Roger, and PJ Davis stage a prank at their carnival of the Fisherman attacking them. Roger dresses up like the Fisherman, complete with a hook that he bought from the Bahamas, claiming to be Ben Willis's. The prank goes wrong, and PJ dies. The 4 friends make a pact never to tell anyone they're responsible. The official investigation, led by PJ's father, Sheriff Davis, is that a lone attacker was responsible, and the murder goes unsolved. And even though it was an accident, I think the whole friend group would be found legally culpable of something. So they're going on the murder board. On July 1st the following year, Amber returns for the summer and connects with PJ's cousin, Lance Jones, and breaks up with Colby. Then Deputy Hafner hits on her way home. It is not cool. She wakes up shortly before midnight from a nightmare to find 50 text messages reading, "I know what you did last summer." Amber interrupts Zoe's band practice and sleeps over. The next day, Amber and Zoe visit Roger, who wants to tell Sheriff Davis, but the girls convince him not to. Zoe confronts Colby, but he shoos her away, then finds a message written on the pavement stating, "I know what you did." While nature photographing, Amber's bicycle tire is slashed, leading her to getting scared by the fisherman on a gondola back down the mountain. Roger contemplates killing himself, but stops just before the fisherman kills him. Amber, Zoe, and Colby think Roger's responsible until they find Amber's photographs torn into a message reading, "Soon." The next day, Amber, Zoe, and Colby accuse Lance, then get suspicious of Sheriff Davis, so Colby leaves him a threatening note, like you do. While Zoe dreams of PJ, the fisherman slashes her bed and breaks her guitar. Lance confronts Amber and reveals that not only does he know about the prank gone wrong, but someone has scratched into his motorcycle, and Amber realizes that he's in danger too. The fisherman attacks Colby in a pool, but doesn't kill him. Amber, Zoe, Colby, and Lance plan on leaving town in the morning. But on July 4th, Zoe breaks the plan because she gets an important gig. So they decide to stick together until the talent show and then leave. The fisherman attacks backstage and kills Zoe, then Sheriff Davis. Amber warns Colby, but the fisherman kills him too. Amber and Lance flee, but are stopped by Deputy Hafner, who reveals Roger told him about what happened last summer. But it's just a red herring because the fisherman arrives and kills the deputy. Amber hits him with the cruiser, knocking his hat off, revealing he's a wrath-like, decomposing Ben Willis. And yeah, that's right. They gave Ben the zombie Jason treatment, complete with unmasking shot. The makeup is pretty decent, but it looks like they switched the bad eye. I corrected it in the art for consistency. Besides, in the final shot, he has two glowing red eyes, so, make of that what you will. While Ben's attacking Lance, Amber manages to stab him with his own hook, then knock him into a thresher. Lance is taken away in an ambulance, and Amber tells the detectives it was the same guy who killed PJ. The following 4th of July, while driving to Los Angeles to be with Lance, Amber gets a flat tire on the Nevada border. Ben appears behind her and kills her. And that does it for this episode. Thank you for hanging in there to the very end. Quick reminder to like, share, and subscribe if you would be so kind. If you haven't seen my Friday the 13th illustrated timeline, here's a link. And if you'd like to see higher res versions of my artwork with additional commentary, check out my Patreon, link in the description. This is Doc Silverscreams, signing off.